And here is COG from the Transformers Siege line, Deluxe COG. He's what is known as a Weaponizer, which means he does some parts forming to become weapons, all kinds of different weapons for larger figures, or I guess maybe if you get one of the smaller figures to hold it, but or even the same size class, Deluxes can use them too. And here he is in his combined vehicle mode, which is basically his two smaller vehicle modes plugged together. And it's kind of a drawback because, like, literally this little tab right here is the only thing that holds the vehicle mode together. So it's a little loose. Now, it stays together okay, but you can't shake it or anything. Like, if you start shaking it, he comes right apart. But if you just, if you tab them together and just, even if you're just pulling him from the front, he stays together pretty well, or from the back. So there's that at least. But it's very easy to pop them apart, and it should be tabbed in here. And he kind of separates into his two component vehicles for use with Fort Max, which is cool. And yeah, he will go well with your Titan Fort Max if you have him. I'm not bringing Fort Max out here just to show off COG with him. And to transform him, you just come around here. You have to pop off his arms and then plug him into the side of his body here. You see that hinge is for his transformation in various weapons. You plug his arms in, flip up his head here, and then his legs. Go ahead and pull his pistols out. Flip this piece up and around, and then the two halves kind of mesh together. There's a peg here that goes right in there, and he holds together decently. He actually still has a waist swivel after that too, which is nice. The legs, they're staying on okay, but again, because he's intended to come apart, Bolt Matrix was asking if my thighs stay on, and they do. They're on pretty securely, but it doesn't take much to pull them off. And then he's got two little pistols, and this is where I'm like, I'm not sure what's going on, because when I plug them into here, I don't know if it's the peg holes in his hands or actually one of the handles, and this just, when I plug them into here, they're nice and solid. When I plug them into his hands, one of them will hold in, his left hand holds the weapon fairly securely, whereas the right hand, it just wants to pop right out. It's in there enough, like it's not going to fall out, but it's way looser in this hand than it is in this hand, and it doesn't matter which gun is in which hand. This hand holds it much more securely. This hand, as you see, it's actually both. It's actually both the peg and the thing, because this gun is slightly looser in this hand than this gun, which is weird because when I put this gun, this one really does just fall right out, whereas this one actually stays in. I have no idea what is up with these guns or his hands, but you can have him hold. Wait, that's the one that just falls out. You can't have him hold it. He also has ports all over him for various weapons. And they all have, I've been meaning to show some of this off, and we'll show some of this off with the Target Masters, but they all have little ports on them. So like, oh, he's getting shot. Somebody's shooting at him. You can plug a blast. It's like, oh, I've taken a hit. There's a couple different ports on all these guys. Optimus has them. I thought maybe these guys had some ports in their feet. Oh, and it looks like they do. So maybe you can have them ride the larger figures as well. Actually, let's see. Does this connect to one of these peg holes? Not really. Okay, that's more of just the blast effect. So never mind. Ignore me. But yeah, I thought maybe it was for smaller guys to ride on, like with Titan's Return. But it's mostly just to have I've been shot in the chest. Which is kind of fun. Like, Sideswipe has one up here. Boom. Oh, I've been hit. Or in the shoulder. Whatever. You get the point. Robot mode real quick. We'll go ahead and show him off with some of the other figures. He's one of the larger deluxes, both at the top of the head and, of course, just overall with the shoulder pylons. But there he is with them. Now, like I said, he's a weaponizer, which means that he breaks apart into component weapons. So you've got the two guns here. His arms come off, And they can be, like this piece is on a hinge, so if you plug it in like here, you can give him a weapon with a angled gun here. The legs come off like this, and can fold up to form like boots for deluxe figures. We're gonna armor hound up here just to show you how this works. Although again, any of the figures with ports all over them, like Prime's got ports all over him, there's a lot of different ways you can do this. And even with this guy, there's a lot of different things you can do. So you can take this, if you leave the legs attached, you can go ahead and leave them attached here. You can take this, fold these back at the hip, fold them forward here, kind of up like this. Flip out this peg here. Take his arms, peg him in here like this. Oh, and again with hip joints and everything. And then with this peg it into Hound's back. And while he's a little back heavy now he's got over-the-shoulder cannons, giant over-the-shoulder cannons. And while that's happening here, and you don't have to leave them just up. You can leave them. You can fold these up using those hip joints up and above, or even out to the side like this. And that makes them a little bit more stable. Distributes the weight a little better. So there's Hound with a giant backpack. COG himself. You can fold these pieces around, flip out this peg here on his chest. You can even turn his head around so it maybe gets it's hidden by the folding effect. Although now it seems to kind of be blocking the folding effect. So there we go. And this can turn into a shield. You can actually pretend, if you want, it's got some ports here, so this can be a blaster shield of some sort and give it some fire effects here. And now it's a gun, and he can hold it with this hand. You can attach, like I said, let's rotate this around. You can have these guns come up like this and then angle these guns. And then you can take these smaller guns and plug them into Hound's wrists where they actually stay in securely. So it's just something with COG. And now Hound's just armed to the teeth. That's one configuration. There's a whole bunch of different things you can do with this, because if you want, you can pop this off, take all this apart. If you take these off, take the legs off, fold them up like this, and now peg them in to the bottom of Hound's feet like this. Now Hound's got some moon boots, and then you can attach these to his arms and as individual cannons. Now this kind of becomes a nothing piece, but yeah, there's not really any place to attach things. But you can kind of attach these guns here, and then it still has enough room to fit. Maybe not so much with the this arm cannon on here, but you can peg. There's enough room to fit around a fist. So now, let's go ahead and just take this off for a second. So this is a gun. Actually, you could even rotate these around. Maybe these are extra cannons on it. And then attach this gun. Attach these guns to his shoulders. And because of the way you can rotate this around, so you can let's just give him both shoulder guns. So you can rotate this so it's up on top. You can have it off to the side. He's still got this jetpack, which now you can attach to his back port as a jetpack. Use the flame blast as like a jetpack effect. Come on. This is partly coming apart because this came untabbed. There we go. Put these effects back on. Come on, go on. Go on, effect part. And you can do that with, like, look at that. There's Hound all kinds of armored up just by ripping COG to pieces. And because of the hinge, you can fold this out this way. Again, the gun's kind of facing an awkward direction like that. But if you plug it in There's a different way I had this plugged in where this came up, and I don't know, there's a lot of different... Oh, this way, here we go. You can bring this up and use his wrist gun as a gun that way. There's all sorts of ways you can configure COG. You could put his rifles in his hands here and have more guns on this. There's all sorts of ways to configure COG. Like, I'm not going to try to do every single one of them here in this video, but lots of different options you've got to pull the weaponizers apart and make more weapons. I think Brunt may be a weaponizer. So yeah, a lot of really cool options with COG. And that's really his selling point, because as a figure himself, he's got enough little quibbles that I'm not super great on him. But as an add-on weapon set for other figures, there's a lot of really neat stuff you can do with him. So let's go ahead and put him back into robot mode to wrap up the video review. But go ahead and pull these off. So yeah, on top of the fact that most of the, with Prime's shield axe and all that, there's a lot of ways with just the individual figures to have a few different weapon configurations with the Battle Masters and the Weaponizers and the Micromasters. Just a lot more things you can do with these guys. So as an overall play pattern, like I said, it almost seems a little bit more fun. Like Titan Masters are fun. You could swap the heads and you could have them kind of populating big city bots and all that. But these have a lot more concrete. Aside from just being, hey, you get a robot that transforms here, you also get all kinds of weapons for all your figures. And that's kind of neat too. It's a chunkier play pattern, I guess, is what I want to say. Let's go ahead and just put these in your arms, since you're not going to fall out as easily there. But yeah, so a lot of potential here. I didn't even show off all the configurations that were in the instructions. There's just a lot. But there is Weaponizer Deluxe COG. And I'm looking forward to seeing more of these guys in the line, because they really, aside from, again, a decent standalone figure, nothing amazing, but something to complete your Fort Max. And then we've seen 6-gun coming, but also just a really nice accessory to your other figures to weapon them up. So there is Deluxe COG.